We are live on YouTube and we'll just join on LinkedIn and then make a start. Perfect. Right. Welcome everyone to the latest in our Pencil Perspective live streams. Hi, Will.
Hey, Tim.
It's great to have you back again. I love these chats. So today we're going to be talking about some of the news articles that have been bubbling up around a recent Citrini research report that really puts forward a quite bleak future around AI and the way that particularly AI is going to affect the global economy moving forwards. We've also seen a little bit of a backlash against that as well, with some much more positive views of what AI could enable. It probably won't surprise anyone in the audience to know that at Pencil, we take much more of a positive view towards AI than this particular research report. But what we really want to think about is how do we move past this fear-based narrative and how do we actually activate building a better world, a better economy using AI-based tools? So as ever, I think, Will, you've got some questions for me.
Yeah, let's dive in. I mean, as always, Tim, I want to kind of focus on your experience as a trainer, as a teacher, as somebody who spends a lot of time with users of AI who are using AI potentially for the first time, and really dig into this question of, optimism and pessimism. But first, I think just a quick overview of my take on the report. Right, like it's really well written. Fictional potential scenario that basically has spooked Wall Street to the extent that it shaved share value, off of some major stocks in the US.
Yeah.
Not just the kinds of companies that you would expect, but ones that you wouldn't, right? Food delivery companies and this kind of thing. And it has done that because it has basically asked the question, what if AI is way better than anyone expects?
Yeah.
And a scenario where white collar work is replaced wholesale by AI agents by 2028, and the people leave the job pool at such large numbers that they no longer have the ability to spend in the economy and fund the very companies who are building the AI which is replacing the jobs. Therefore, the economy collapses.
Yeah.
Bleak, bleak AF, right? It reminds me of one of the anecdotes that we have used since the beginning of Pencil, right? Which is that regardless of the power of the technology, it is up to us, the businesses who are applying it and buying it, our customers, not just the suppliers, but the buyers as well, to be optimistic and imaginative, right? The report is titled the 2028 Global Intelligence Crisis. I would recharacterize it as the 2028 Global Imagination Crisis. We have failed to imagine a positive future and create one. And the anecdote is self-driving cars, right? The self-driving car technology is used by both Uber and Tesla, right? And anecdotally here, the Uber model is drivers drive the cars learn to drive. The AI, takes over that learning, becomes so good that Uber no longer needs the drivers. Car drives themselves. All profit goes to Uber. That's the Uber model. The Tesla model is we sell you the car as the individual consumer, the person. You drive the car. You teach the car to drive. You drive to work, park it. The car goes out, ferries other people around as a taxi service. You make the money as an individual. Same technology, different business model, different routing of value. In one case, corporation to a corporation. In one case, at least split between a corporation and the person, the normal person, right? So there's an enfranchisement piece there. And, the only thing different is the business model, the operating model, not the technology, right? And that, for me, is what it means to be optimistic and to invent and be imaginative in creating a future which is positive and enfranchises people and it's not greedy,
Yeah.
irrespective of the technology. So that is my kind of starting point. But I would love to now go into whether that aligns to how people really feel when they're adopting AI. So please, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really interesting here, there's a few things. One is it is a really well-written story. Like you've said, it's a horror story, but it's a very effective horror story. I actually quite enjoyed reading it in the same way that I would enjoy reading any short story. It's rooted in a lot of assumptions. So there's assumptions about the tech and what the tech's going to be capable of. And it's really assuming that the current leaps and bounds that AI is moving in are going to continue totally unchecked and unrestrained, which to me feels like a misunderstanding of how AI works at all. Like at some point, there is going to be a limit on the amount of human-led, intelligent, new data that can support these advances. The other side of it is it didn't just read to me as being negative about AI, it was negative about humanity.
Yeah.
There's one line that really stuck out to me, and in fact, it was the thing that annoyed me the most in the whole report, was it referred to humans realizing that human relationships were friction. And I just can't buy into that at all. I don't think there is ever going to be a demand from your average person to remove human interaction from the equation in their day-to-day lives.
It's funny, isn't it? I mean, it goes to, and I think we can all, I agree, I hate that, but I think we can recognize it, right? There is, there's a moment when you're sat in your comfortable office or home working a white collar job at a desk and customer feedback comes in and you're annoyed, right? Or a person that you're working with, whether it's a customer or a colleague, annoys you, and you think, oh, if only didn't have to deal with that, right? But then, shit hits the fan. Something goes wrong, you break your leg, you lose your dog, and suddenly the thing you want the most in the world is to talk to a person who's going to help you, right? And then suddenly you realize the importance of dealing with people. And I think that this is the problem with sanitized takes on how products should be built to remove the people friction and that kind of thing. I'm trying to find, there's quite a good quote I think that's kind of related. Well, it's not it's quite a quote, but like Alex Honnold, who's a famous free soloist, right? The climber. He climbed, I can't remember what the tower is in Malaysia recently. Petronas Tower. I can't remember what exactly he climbed, but he was in the press recently, and he speaks a lot about something like this, right? That without the real exposure to fear, the exposure to realness in his life gives him a greater appreciation of what fear really is, and it makes him much less anxious in day-to-day life. And I think there's this connection, the issue between sanitized takes on products and AI and real life interactions with people. And I think social media and all the other things in the world are increasingly sanitizing and removing us from personal relationships that matter, and is creating bad decision making, right? Which brings me to my first question here I have for you. The FT, which is one of the outlets that covered this report, highlighted that we've spent so much time on responsibility that we've ignored the intelligence side of the equation, which is interesting, right? It basically suggests that we're already spending so much time planning for the worst case scenario that we haven't spent any time thinking about what could be a good scenario and trying to create one, right? It's defensive versus offensive thinking. In training, when you speak to people, does that play out at the interpersonal level? Like, are people so fearful that we're not being creative about what we want to happen in the future?
Yes and no. So I think the biggest thing here is you can't really generalize. What tends to happen is there are three very obvious camps in new users of AI. You've got the fearful group, they are going to struggle to approach AI with innovation and intelligence because they're locked in. There is a primal instinct in them that they don't want to engage with this. And that means that, yeah, they'll be very by the book in their applications of it. There's another camp of people who are absolute, like, massive proponents of AI, really excited about change and opportunity and new technology. They're going to be the ones who are doing truly innovative things. They're going to be the ones who are bringing that really good, high quality human intelligence into the equation. The other camp, which we don't really ever talk about, but actually might be the biggest camp, are the slightly ambivalent people. And
Hmm.
I think one of the big challenges that we have now is looking at who is influencing that group, like the group of people who can and will adopt well, can and will be intelligent about things if they're not spooked into that terrified primal camp.
It's interesting that it's a question of influence, isn't it? But that also goes to there is so much fear in the media and the narrative that there isn't really a positive narrative to cling on to. It's not even like people have a choice, dystopia or utopia. It's all dystopia. There's no path forward, right? So question two, I guess, for you is like on being thoughtful and forward looking. Like, is there any spark of optimism that you think points us, in a direction that people can hang on to, or rather that group that you mentioned that is optimistic?
Mm-hmm.
What is driving them, and how can we amplify that side of the story? Because it's not guaranteed, right? It doesn't feel like it. It feels like the default is dystopia, but so that
Yeah.
means you have to fight even harder for utopia. You have to. What can light the way?
I mean, if we look very specifically from a creative lens, just because that's what I'm closest to, I think there's a really big motivator around the democratization of creativity, which is the way I like to think about it. There are so many brilliantly creative people in the world who have been limited by the resources available to them. Like there are so many potential Steven Spielbergs out there who don't have a Hollywood film studio behind them. And what AI enables, particularly when you look at the wealth of new, incredible quality video models out there, is someone to create the motion picture themselves, to unlock those doors that have previously been limited by the numbers of people or the amount of finance that needs to go in to producing quality art. And I think it's probably the same across the board. I think AI has this potential to disrupt and to elevate talents and skills in people to a marketable level. That's obviously scary for the people who currently hold the keys and lock the doors.
It feels like an extension of the creator economy, doesn't it? And
Mm,
the threat that posed to, established marketing industry.
exactly.
And it's interesting because it is a it is and was a good thing, right? That
Yeah.
individual creators could be directly enfranchised by a brand. But it's also become a bit dark, right? Like a lot of UGC, the people that you see reviewing products are paid, and it's not clear that they're actually paid, and it's
Mm,
not actually a real review, right? So there's this question of like, how do you create an operating model that ensures positivity? But before you get to positivity, I guess you just have to deal with enfranchisement and like democratization um,
yeah.
as a first step, right? And then hope that things work, you know,
Yeah.
continue in a positive direction as opposed to being, undermined. Um,
And I mean,
so
on that note, what are we doing kind of as Pencil product wise to
hmm.
help us build towards this more optimistic future?
Yeah, I mean, it's we talk. I feel like we talk about this a lot, but I mean, we are first of all in name, in spirit, in founding principle. It's something that we care about and are committed to, right? We're called Pencil because we think AI should be a tool, not a replacement for people. And we, one of probably the number one thing that I've lost sleep over the last 10 years doing this company is how do we live up to that? How do you
Mhm.
live up to that? The things that we have managed to do. One is hire creative people into our business. Jules, who's joined us on a few of these, was our first creative person. It was, one of our first hires almost 10 years ago, and she's built a huge creative team behind her. And we very much offer customers a tech and human approach, right? So that's a very simple thing, very obvious thing. When we were acquired by Brand Tech, our agreement with David, who acquired us, was to leave our free or low cost offering available to everyone, even as we continue to, or rather David continued to invest in us to serve enterprise clients, right?
Yep.
So making it available to everyone, I think, is key. In the product itself, I think Meta and others have made a big deal of fully automating, away the creative step, meaning, you go to Meta with your credit card and, your product image, and they do the rest. That is the Death Star to us. We want to be the rebellion, right? That is a stated objective which can never, I don't think, lead to a positive place, at least for the creative side of marketing, or the human creative side. In contrast, we build for a user. We build our product for users, right? And increasingly, AI products are being built for billion-dollar companies with one employee, and it's like there's a whole other thing going on in the industry that is not what we're trying to do. We're still trying to build for users, and as evidenced by the fact that you work with an agent to generate something, you work with an agent to score something, and you evaluate both and make a decision, right? The creative decisioning power. We're building nodal workflows that when a brief comes in from a client, an agent or a series of agents might pick it up, but humans are called in to help the agents when the agents need help. This isn't working, there's an error, this is scoring poorly on something that matters to the client, like diversity or engagement or whatever. Human come in, take a look. So agents working with people as a team is something that we're increasingly building for as well. The fact that they are editors in pencil, a lot of AI tools allow you to prompt a model but not actually edit anything manually, for expediency or by design, because people think that isn't a feature that should exist. We think it is a future that should exist. So, I am always dissatisfied with what we're doing, and I'm looking for things that we could do more to prove this, but those are some of the things we're doing today.
Fantastic. And we're out of time, but I do want to ask you one more question anyway. We've talked about this kind of imagination crisis, and you asked me a little bit about where the barriers to imagination and intelligence with AI are. For you, what do you think the next big breakthrough in imagination or intelligence with use of AI is going to be, that's going to lead to a more positive potential?
Yeah, a more optimistic, future. I think, ironically, it's somewhat dependent on the capabilities of AI itself, because it's something like, a creator uses AI to make a film that people really watch, that people love. Like make the AI drifts into the background, and something is made with it as a tool by a person that hugely resonates, right? And the Door Brothers are working on this. There's lots of other creative collectives and creative people doing this, but because the AI isn't quite good enough yet, the obviousness of the AI is apparent, and it detracts from the storytelling. The AI needs to get good enough that you can't tell the difference, and at that point, it becomes a tool. It's still too much part of the point of making the work. It needs to totally drift into the background of the technology and let the humans take center stage again. I think that would be a hugely empowering moment, that a creator that no one has ever heard of has made something so incredible that it captures the imagination of the world in a way that would not have been possible, to your point, before. And that's an empowerment moment. That is a democratic moment. And I think that it needs to be a piece of work that is made by a person, because I just don't think that it is possible for emotional resonance of that type to come from AI, because people don't trust it. They don't trust the motives of it. So, we've started putting the author of everything out of our case studies, of our examples, because it's just important. People want to see art that was made by someone else who has the same experience that they've had. Otherwise, they just can't see the meaning in it. So I think it's complicated and a bit meta, but I think that's probably an inflection point that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, that sounds like the kind of future and the kind of story that we really want to happen, as fun as a horror story might be. So I think our takeaways from today are actually very similar to usual. We are really, really passionate about the role of the human in the use of AI, that co-development of work between human and technology. And I think the Financial Times review of that Citrini report is right. We really do need to stop focusing on the crisis and really start thinking about how do we harness reinvention properly, effectively, positively, and optimistically.
Yeah. And to the people out there who are in a position to make decisions about the operating models around AI, go out and touch some grass and buy a loaf of bread from a local baker. Remember what is great about human relationships, and this is a message to me and you and all of us as well. And let's make some good decisions, right? And also bravo to the Anthropic team for not bowing to pressure and giving the U.S. government access to AI for military purposes against their mission. Interesting to see what the fallout of that will be. But like, we need some ethical decisions taken,
Yeah,
and decisions taken by people who appreciate and remember that interpersonal relationships matter. People matter.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you so much, Will. And we'll see you all again soon for more pencil perspectives.